Broncos 33, Giants 32. Welcome to the Giants Nation Show. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, the Football Grump. Dude, I was so hot. Like, even if the Giants ended up winning the game in the end and they didn't give up that terrible drive at the end, like, I was going to be pissed off on this podcast. I was furious. The Giants were up 19-0 in the fourth quarter. They lost. They were up 25-8 with 6 minutes left. They lost. They were up 32-30 with 30 seconds left. They lost. I saw this stat from Ari Morov. The NFL teams had won 1,602 straight games when leading by 18-plus points in the final 6 minutes. The Giants led 26-8 with 6 minutes left, and the Broncos came back to win 33-32. There's so many reasons this happened, right? We're going to talk about all of it, but the reality is that the Giants are 2-5, and you can do the shoulda, coulda, wouldas all they want, but they lost, and it's just a joke. This game was so out of hand, Grump, that you're like I didn't have any of the fear of the Giants choke this, right? They scored a touchdown, like, okay, that's whatever. Like, it's not possible that they can really choke this one away. And they did it twice. They did it twice where they choked this one away.
What's up, Bobby? Yeah, I'm the same way as you, man. The Giants took care of business for 3 out of 4 quarters in this game. And by take care of business, I mean straight up destroyed everything that was predicted for this game. Everything was going far better than you or I expected. And then that like sinking feeling of coming back to earth and it all falling apart just was growing inside the pit of my stomach. And I got the same way as you. By the end of this game, take away the last touchdown, etc. Like all of that, it doesn't even matter. Just given the way that the game was unfolding, I was not going to walk away with this super duper happy. Now, obviously, you walk away with a win, you can easily forget a lot of the nonsense that contributed to this loss. And I'd be a very different angry person right now. But regardless, I mean, this is just something that you could feel happening. And it started really with the Dart interception. And there's, like you said, there's a multitude of factors that brought us to this point right now.
It was so avoidable. It was avoidable.
There's about 5 or 6 different things we can talk about this being avoidable, going way back to the offseason for a number of different things. But it sucks because there is actually a lot of positive to talk about in this game. And I don't even want to talk about it. I don't know if we're going to get to some of the positives that came from this game.
We'll talk about the offensive line and Jaxson Dart for 3 quarters. But it's like the kicker. Let's just start with the kicker situation and get it out of the way because I don't feel like waiting 10 minutes to talk about it.
No, let's do it.
We do our Sunday live streams every week, and they're a little more casual. Do a little big picture, and in the morning, joke around, have some fun. And something we talked about is like, this kicker situation. We're not really talking about it much because the damage has already been done in a sense that like their failures have them where they are now. It's not necessarily this failure in the moment, even though I would have rather had Younghoe Koo out there, obviously, even though he's been bad and got cut by a team. But it goes back to like this is the second time this year we're talking about this to start a podcast. They could have saved $3 million by cutting Graham Gano. They could have saved $3 million by cutting Graham Gano in the offseason. And they have no cap space right now. They just had to rework contracts of Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland. They'll probably have to do it again to get through the season. And they could have saved real money and taken the kicker situation serious instead of just rolling with an expensive, old, injured kicker who had been bad the last 2 years. Instead, Jude McAtamney goes in first game, doesn't really have to do anything, kicks one 30-yard field goal and an extra point. Okay, see you later. See you next week. Last week, he misses an extra point. It's not really on the forefront of our thoughts because the Giants won and they beat the Eagles, and it was a very fun week. But again, we talked about it on our morning. It's like it's kind of crazy. They said that Jude McAtamney beat Younghoe Koo in a kicker competition in practice, and it's like I'm not there to say that that's not true, and I still can't say that that's not true. That he's better than Younghoe Koo, but like this was a guy who was not a starting kicker at Rutgers. He was not a starting kicker at Rutgers. You have to see these issues, right? These issues did not just pop up today. He has to be missing kicks in practice, or maybe not because they don't kick in practice. That's something we've observed over the years in New York Giants land. He was not the starting. Like he went 12 for 18 his junior year at Rutgers and lost the starting job. He was on the team because of an international pathway program. He had an exemption to be on the roster. Right? If it wasn't for that, he would have never been on the roster. Probably would have been kept on the practice squad. And he misses 2 extra points in this game, or 3 extra points in 2 weeks. You panic and go for 2 instead of kicking an extra point to go up 20-0. Now it's 19-0. That makes a difference between winning and losing this game, or at least taking it to overtime. And it's just like all offseason, we talked about, like, why not draft a kicker? You have 2 7th-round picks. Why not draft a kicker? Why not make it your priority of a UDFA? Why not pull somebody from the UFL? And they just ignored it, and it's come back to bite them again. Again, it has come back to bite them.
Yeah, that's what's really annoying is I'm not saying that they should have outright guillotined Graham Gano, right, in the offseason. It's just that they didn't take it seriously. You had a situation where you have all the warning signs that Graham Gano is not going to be able to be relied upon, and the only like fake competition you have is an IPP player. It's a roster exempt spot, and I have nothing against them using the International Pathway Program roster exemption for a kicker. I actually think that's a really smart way to use it, whatever, but that's not real. And the competition was not real either. It really, like you said, like it costs you nothing to bring in a kicker from the UFL. It costs you nothing to sign a UDFA kicker, a priority UDFA kicker. It's so minuscule in the grand scheme of things. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying that like they needed to find Graham Gano's replacement. It's so much that it was a cheap option to bring in a competition and have a real competition for that spot. There's a real significant downgrade in the way they scrutinized every single, and I'm not trying to make this like a 10-year history here, but the way they came in and scrutinized every single roster position in 2022 versus the way they just have gimmies on things now is ridiculous. And it's not even like Graham Gano was their guy. It's not the guy that they brought in. So I have no idea in the world why this was such a just mulligan, like Graham Gano is our guy with no actual competition to be like, is he really like better, or is it over for him? Like he's old enough where this could have been a career thing for him, the end of his career. And I think that's where we are.
He's been bad and injured over the last 2 years. He's 38 years old. Like at some point, these kickers, like they fall off of a cliff and they're bad. And it shows like the last 2 years was that for Graham Gano. Like you said, they flat out did not take it serious. And this is such a great point that has been lost, right? Like year one of Joe Shane, there wasn't much to praise because they had no money, right? They had no money in free agency, so they couldn't really do anything. Their draft picks, Kayvon had showed some moments. Evan Neal was flat out bad. But again, you're not judging a rookie class after the rookie year, unless they're slightly above average, and then you start declaring them as victories and reasons to keep your job. But the one thing to praise from that year was like the bottom of the roster manipulation, right? Bringing in guys like Fabian Moreau, Jason Pinnock, like just, continually just moving the back of the roster. They brought in Jared Davis at the end, who was starting at linebacker for them in playoff games, like just constantly churning that roster. And like you said, they have gimme spots where, like with the kicker for some reason, at cornerback 2 with Deontay Banks, just giving him a spot to start the season to, play meaningful snaps. And then he gets thrown in and he's terrible in this game. But like the kicker situation it's just like embarrassing. It's one of those things where it makes you question, like, am I the idiot in the offseason when you're talking about this? I go back to the Josh Suzudu thing last year where it's like, why are they rolling with this guy as their swing tackle? All the evidence is that this is a disaster, and then it hits and it's a disaster. And it's just like, this is where you question, like, how competent actually are these guys? Is it just, drafting, not drafting well, or missing something, just like, or are they just really bad at this day-to-day running a team stuff?
Yeah, and that's where I think that the anger is going to be pointed at Jude McAtee. It's not his fault, man. He shouldn't be in this position.
No, and the people messaging him and shit, fucking stop that shit. Like, it's not about him. And it's the same. It's be like blaming Sandro Platzgummer for the Giants losing a game 3 years ago. Like, he should have never been put in this position.
Oh, absolutely. And it, like you said, it's hard to say whether he won out Younghoe Koo or not, because we can't see that competition. That's closed off to the media. There's no clips. There's no reporting. There's nothing. So that's all behind closed doors. And who am I to say that he didn't, win that competition? It puts everybody in a bind. It makes all of this terrible. But also, this is one of the reasons they lost, right? It is indisputable. One of the reasons they lost is because they can't kick extra points, right? Undeniable. At the same time,
they can't even kick field goals though. That's the other thing, is like they're punting from like the 40 and stuff because they just like they're at mile high when it's like these balls are supposed to travel, an extra 10 miles on them, and they can't kick a 55-yard field goal. And they've been not kicking 52-yarders. Like, so this isn't like we talked about it where it's like, I understand they say he won the kicker competition, and like you said, we're not there to say he didn't. And again, we still could say Younghoe Koo could have been terrible in practice. Then why didn't they bring in another practice? Forget Jonas Griffith. For like, if Younghoe Koo sucked, bring in another kicker, because you clearly don't have any freaking faith in this guy, because you can't kick field goals with him. The longest one you've attempted with him is 31 yards, and now he's missed 3 extra points, essentially missed 4 because you went for 2 when you would have kicked an extra point if you trusted your kicker. Like, it's so like I don't even give them that, like, oh well, he won the job. Like, if he won the job, then you should have brought in some other kicker off the streets to go battle with him. Like, sorry, we struck out on Younghoe Koo. Get off our practice squad. We're replacing you with another kicker.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Especially if you're flirting with the idea of trading for a wide receiver. I mean, if that's even like somewhere in your note cards of like things to get done this week in your planner, and you got all these phone calls going around, you're actively pursuing aggressively, as some reports are saying, then you should be doing the same to find. I think Rodrigo Blankenship's still out there. I think anybody, bring somebody else in, figure it out. Because if you're making game decisions and not playing to, this is where you kick a field goal because you don't trust it, then it's not good enough, even if he did beat out the competition. So you're 100% right on that one. I got nothing more on the kicker, though. I mean, it's a microcosm of the reason they lost.
Yeah, let's talk about the fourth quarter collapse on defense. And offense to an extent too. We'll have to talk about Jaxson Dart, because he played bad in the fourth quarter, played awesome for 3 quarters, played bad in the fourth, in my opinion.
Yes,
I know they scored a touchdown on that final drive, but let's talk about the defense.
They
went into a shell. Now, granted, you should be able to kind of go into a shell, but once the game starts getting close, you have to start getting more aggressive, because now they have to be aggressive. They can't take easy. That's when you start like, hey, let's throw cover 0 blitz. Right, let's throw something aggressive at them. Let's rotate our coverage and throw something here. And they just went into basic soft zones. We don't know 100% on that, but me and you both rewatched the fourth quarter to look specifically on what they were calling. And it looked like basic soft zones and then basic man coverage. And your DB sucked. Andrew Phillips and Deontay Banks got beat in man coverage time after time. You do a drop 8 in that final 30 seconds, right? Like, again, like did not learn their lesson from the Dallas game. Oh, we'd like to play that a little tighter. And again, you can say they executed better. Drew Phillips on that play, I don't know what the hell he's doing. It looks like he just thought the play was over or something. But Brian Burns said it, pissed off, walking to the locker room. We did that stupid ass shit again. Dropping 8. Dropping 8. I can't remember the exact transcript of what he said, but talking about dropping 8. And so now you get Brian Daboll yelling at Shane Bowen on the sideline after that. So there's clearly some, frustration at the play calling from the head coach to the defensive coordinator. And they just, coming off of last week, we're like, man, great game plan by Shane Bowen. That was surprising. And I think our title of our mailbag was like, can Bowen keep it up? Nope. They just went back and played. And I don't even think the first 3 quarters were super impressive from a defensive coordinator point of view. It's just the Broncos kind of not even Broncos, Bo Nix playing like shit and them dropping passes.
Yeah, I think it was both. It was Bo Nix wasn't playing well, but they weren't playing well. Outside of their offensive line was playing pretty good. So I think part of it is, we did see it in the Eagles game, and I brought it up. It was like, and at that point, they had scored 5 touchdowns on them. That was in the it's okay to drop and go into your soft defense at this point in the game. It is way, way late. The difference in this game is that they started doing it with like 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And when you do that for that long, it allows them to stay in a rhythm. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, okay, you give up some easy passes, and yeah, it bleeds a lot of clock for them to have to score, and they have to score a bunch of times. So that's a lot of clock bleed, and you rely on your offense to get some first downs and take more of the clock, and that's all fine. And I understand that, and I'm not stupid. But at the same time, when they, roll down the field, 6-7 play drive, throwing passes, getting completions, scoring touchdowns. And you stay in that rhythm. You get the ball back after a 3 and out, or maybe 4 plays. Then you go back into it's another 6-7. You just stay in that rhythm. Everything's just clicking. It becomes like very muscle memory. And because you're not really doing any disguising, you can just sit back and just read. Pre-snap, you can read. Post-snap, everything's going exactly as planned, and bam, it's just all in a rhythm. In that fourth quarter, and this is unofficial because we had a really short period of time to do like rewatch, on the Andrew Phillips play down the sideline where he kind of overran on the back shoulder. They didn't blitz, but they did throw a disguised look where I think Brian Burns dropped into coverage and they brought the fourth guy from the left side. And then the only other play that looked different outside of just rushing for basic coverage was on the Evan Ingram 20-yard play, which was actually an underneath play that they played well and just let him run up the sideline. That's a play where they threw a blitz, and I don't think it had anything to do with the coverage, the completion, or the yards after the catch. It was just simply coincidental. When all game you had Bo Nix scrambling out of the pocket, throwing passes early, getting passes deflected because guys weren't necessarily getting there for the sack, but were in his face. Everything that they needed to do, they were doing well in the first 3 quarters of this game. And then they just stopped doing it in the fourth quarter because, like we said before, coaches and coordinators are always more conservative than you think they are at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And when shit gets tight, that's where you really see what these guys are made of. And that was there. And again, I don't want to as much as I'm pissed off at Shane Bowen, I'm not putting this 100% on Shane Bowen for the defense. Like, Drew Phillips has to make a play, right? Like, we can get excited about Drew Phillips having some games and stuff, but like at the end of the day, he gives up a lot of yards and he gets a lot of penalties. And that showed true. He gave up 85 passing yards in this game and had a defensive pass interference in the 4th down. Deonte Banks, he was terrible, right? But I expect him to be terrible. But Phillips has to make a play at some point. But like you said, the dropping 8, like that's how have you not learned your lesson from Dallas? Like, get more aggressive. And again, this is against Bo Nix with Cortland Sutton as his wide receiver 1. This isn't Dak Prescott with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens as his top guys. And you just let the quarterback who never is comfortable under pressure just sit back, find a seam, and then just drive it in with no pressure at all. And then they're converting to go get themselves a field goal. So, and again, this isn't us just being pissed off at Shane Bowen because we're fans and judging the results. Brian Daboll is yelling at him too. Brian Burns is like questioning it, right? They talked about it last week where like, yeah, we told him to be more aggressive and all that, had a players only meeting on defense. Like, this is something that lingered from last year where the players did not have trust in the defensive coaching staff. They didn't. Grump, you remember people coming to us and talking to us in our ear at the Senior Bowl and being like, geez, dude, like, I thought I felt bad about this team coming into Mobile, Alabama. Leaving, I felt worse. And that's what happens. And that's what happens. And just the players did not play well at the end too. Like the secondary. This is like the 4 corners stats for the game. Drew Phillips, 5 completions on 6 targets, 85 yards, a penalty. Deonte Banks, 3 for 3, 39 yards, 1 touchdown. The 1 touchdown, it was bad coverage, but I'm also not going to be like, how did he give up that touchdown? That was bad luck.
Agreed.
Paul Skattebo, 4 for 5, 53 yards, certainly not good. And then Cordell Flott, amazing. 2 for 10, 19 yards, 2 pass breakups. And he should have had a pass breakup on a play that was called a touchdown. So, like, you can like a lot of Andrew Phillips for the plays he makes, and I do. But he just continues to give up a ton of yards and a ton of penalties and be top of the league for those things. Deonte Banks is the one where he shouldn't be out there, but also it shouldn't be just a pass that like, oh, well, we lost because our 3rd-year first-round corner who we tried to shoehorn into winning the job until just 1 week ago, he was out there. And again, just lack of ball skills. In the run game, like the Bo Nix rushing touchdown.
Just totally lost contain.
Again, how do you continue to screw that shit up? He does it. He's been doing that for years now. How do you continue to lose contain when it's right there? Like, how is nobody like literally like take a baseball bat and just start bashing into his locker and say, stop jumping inside on these outside runs. Okay. You have to play the outside. Like, how does nobody get it through to him that you cannot do that? So again, I think the coaching sucked on the defensive side. Offensive side, we could talk a little bit about the run, pass that may be playing the results a little bit. When last week against the Eagles, the run, pass worked it well. But the players also just choked on in the secondary.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about Cordell Flott for 1 second as the lone thing in the secondary where we can really be happy. He's a starting cornerback in the NFL at this point, as far as I'm concerned. Teams keep trying to pick on him, and it's not working. And I think what is really, really frustrating is we can sit here and we can have a whole episode just on Deonte Banks every single week. It feels like. It felt like the moment Paulson Adebo went down and Deonte Banks had to play, that was the true turning point in the game defensively. You know what I mean? Like the Jaxson Dart interception.
Every point came after that. Like literally every single point came after Paulson Adebo got injured.
Yeah. So what really pisses me off is that this was supposedly a competition between Deonte Banks and Cordell Flott also. And it was only after there was, I don't know if it was public outcry had an impression on the coaching staff making the final decision to just start and play Cordell Flott and not put Deonte Banks on the field on third downs, which never made any sense anyway, or if they came to that conclusion on their own at the same time the rest of the fans did. But it's really, really frustrating because Cordell Flott 100% earned this job in camp, then 100% earned this job throughout the first couple of weeks of the season, and then only really got the job because Deonte Banks just continued to shit the bed. And, you know, it's really tough taking all names out of the equation. It's always tough when your big free agent corner goes down and you have to go to the guy you were actively trying to replace, right? Yeah, of course, that's when things fall apart. I mean,
it seems like they're not hydrated.
It doesn't. And you know what? I think this is the second time this year we've had to say that Deonte Banks, how are you not bashing a baseball bat into his locker and saying, stay hydrated, drink body armor? Because this recap of an epically historic collapse is brought to you by Body Armor Sports Drink. Rewrite your routine and choose better than Deonte Banks with Body Armor. Body Armor is real hydration with electrolytes, coconut water, no artificial dyes, flavors, or sweeteners, with great tasting flavors like strawberry, banana, orange, mango. I have blue raspberry right here, which I'm having for the first time this week, and it's excellent.
I've become a pineapple coconut guy.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
I love the orange mango, but I like the pineapple coconut.
Yeah, I don't know if blue raspberry is even a real fruit, but it is a delicious drink, and that's for real. And
There's no artificial flavors, buddy.
I think it's two different. I think it's blueberries and raspberries. Looking at the back. Anyway, it doesn't matter because Body Armor will level up your hydration game. Grab Body Armor Sports Drink today at your local grocery store. Body Armor, choose better. You will be glad you did.
You'll be glad you did. So again, defensively, Shane Bowen that's where it's like Shane Bowen's not an advantage, where it's like they play basic soft zone. And the pass rush, I will say, I don't think it played very well today. You know, I think Kayvon and Abdul had two of their worst games of the season, right? It's not like they got totally shut out, but they've been playing really well. I thought they had two of their worst games of the year. Brian Burns obviously had the 2 sacks, a couple other times where he was able to get wins. Like Brian Burns obviously played well. But if anything, where the defensive line made its impact was batting passes. I think they had 5 in this game. So it's like, all right, well, if you can't play zone or man coverage because the pass rush isn't winning immediately, and your man coverage on the back end is bad when you have Drew Phillips and Deonte Banks out there, and in zone, you just don't have the safeties or corners that are making those plays. Like, you just don't create an advantage for this team. Right? Like, that's what Shane Bowen, again, last week did. Last week we talked about it. Like, he's had these outlier games. Please don't be an outlier. Make this more of what your identity is. And then when it got to nut crunching time in the fourth quarter, it's like, now we're going to play basic man. We're going to sit back and cover 3, cover 4, and let Bo Nix just take what's ever there. We're going to let them run the ball. I mean, that was another thing. They had, let me see where I had the stat. I tweeted it out too. In the fourth quarter, they had 7 runs for 94 yards. Right, so like they started laying the run. Bad tackling was a part of that too. So it's not all Shane Bowen, but but it's just he does not give you an advantage as a defensive coordinator.
No, and that's what's frustrating is I think that he can call a decent game. It's just that when it comes to nut crunch time, like you said, he collapses, goes back into that shell, and you can see it. You can see it in the body language of the players in the fourth quarter.
They don't have faith in him.
No, they don't. They don't have faith in the scheme. And like really what it does is it's kind of bullshit because it's kind of just saying like, oh, pass rushers, just get there. Just win this game for us. Because that's all it really is. It's putting all the pressure on the front four to get there every single time.
Yeah.
Without doing anything, knowing that on the back end, you're kind of dealing with patchwork shit. And then beyond that, even your starters, like you're not really dealing with what you consider like a star-studded defensive backfield. You've got injuries at corner. You've got two banged up safeties in this game. Javon Holland went down at one point. Tyler Nubin left the game at one point. You had Dane Belton jumping in there, which he played a fantastic game for the most part. We got to go back and watch that, see if he left anything on the field.
Dude, he laid that guy out on that fourth down and goal stop.
Sutton?
Yeah, just put it through his chest.
Yeah.
I tweeted out Dane Belton ass.
Yeah.
And I felt corny doing it, but it was like, that was like, oh my gosh. I cannot remember. Dane Belton's had like some interceptions and stuff, and there's something about catching the ball when you're in the right place at the right time. But like that was like, oh wow, that's the first time I remember Dane Belton just making like a flat out.
He's kind of a little guy.
Yeah.
That was like a Ray Lewis tackle.
Yeah, that was beastly. Let's talk Jaxson Dart in the offense.
Let's do it.
So for 3 quarters, it was sick. They had what was it? 19 points. So not lighting it up, but like this is against a Broncos defense, which is good. They had no outside wide receiver presence, right? Lil Jordan Humphrey, Bo Collins, and Jalen Hyatt had 0 catches in this game. So essentially, your only receiving targets are Wan'Dale Robinson, Daniel Bellinger, Theo Johnson, Cam Skattebo. And Wan'Dale, if we did a player of the game, might be my player of the game for the Giants, even though he did have a drop that turned into a touchdown for Theo Johnson. But like I took him 1-1 in our fantasy draft. I was like, he needs to make plays, right? Can't just catch the short stuff. Got to catch the short stuff. Needs to make plays. But him and Dart were on the same page, right? Dart, early in the game scrambles and throws the ball across his body. I'm like, oh, and then nope, and he completes it. Wan'Dale catches it. Wan'Dale had some good yak moments in this game, and he ended up with 6 catches, 95 yards. And then, the Daniel Bellinger touchdown was really nice by Jaxson Dart, right? He's getting pressure. He, runs up through the pocket, and Bellinger's wide open, but like he finds Bellinger wide open on that.
And nails him for a perfect pass, too.
Yeah. And again, this is with no wide receiver help on the outside, where I thought Dart was playing well. He was operating the offense. He was taking some sacks, but they weren't backbreakers. And they were made from him trying to make a play, obviously, which you can't always rely on that. And sometimes they'll get in trouble like you did. But like, I thought he played really well through 3 quarters. And, but the fourth quarter was bad, right? Like when we're evaluating the rookie season as a whole, like I don't think this game is going to go, be part of the negative bucket unless the fourth quarter stuff becomes a trend. But like he did good things, and at 2-5, he's one of the only things I can look forward to watching outside of Andrew Thomas and Jermaine Eluemunor and Cam Skattebo. But like the fourth quarter was bad. I mean, he went 1 for 17, 19 yards. Sorry, these were the last 3 drives after he had the Theo Johnson touchdown, so not the whole fourth quarter. But after that, he went 1 for 7, 19 yards, 1 interception. Like the third down interception, you just can't have that, right? Like it's that guy's right in your direct line of sight. There's levels of interceptions of like, was he fooled? And it's understandable. Was it an inaccurate throw? Was it just a terrible decision? That goes under the terrible decision. Not just because it was third down and you're up by that, and just taking a sack would have done so much more good for you. It's just like if you're down by 10 with 3 minutes left, you can't throw that type of pass if you're Jaxson Dart. And then he just started chucking it, right? When they were down, they started chucking it. And that final touchdown drive does not move me for this whole team at all. Like I was still pissed off at that, where they were just chucking it, right? There's like Brian Daboll's got to. This is where Brian Daboll's got to like get some composure from him. It's like play quarterback, right? Play. You have 2 minutes left. We have a timeout left. Play quarterback, okay? Act like this is the end of the first half, and you're down by 3, right? Play quarterback, and he just starts chucking it, and he's has inaccurate deep passes, and he got saved by penalties, right? The Wan'Dale play, that was a good play, but I'm pretty confident he was short when they would have reviewed that, and that extends it on a fourth down. And then he gets the pass interference on an underthrown ball, a play after, 2 plays after he threw it into 2 DBs' hands. It was just, that's always been one of my worries with Dart. It's one game, so I'm not going to panic. And again, more good than bad, but they have to get to him mentally. Like, hey, when you're in these situations, you got to just play quarterback. Just play quarterback, because he just kind of went chuck and prayer. And it kind of worked out because he got those pass interferences and was able to run it in. But in this game, the fourth quarter, he was a part of it.
So I want to take these one at a time. First, the interception. The interception is terrible. I'm not going to try and paint a different picture. At first glance, from like the broadcast angle, it just looked like horrible. Like you just threw it directly at a guy. Then when you get the behind the quarterback view, sort of the all 22-ish kind of view, you can see exactly what he sees, and he's correct in his assessment with his eyes on where he wants to put that ball. The problem is, in that situation with the collapsing pocket and not having your feet underneath you, he can't get anything into the throw. The throw is behind where it should be and too low, and it ends up going to the defender right in front of the pass. He has an open receiver. I don't remember who it was, with somebody trailing him. The ball is not on his forward shoulder, and it's not high enough. And it's entirely due to the feet not even I don't even think his feet were on the ground. I think he just kind of threw it while being hit or jumping in the air or something like that. But regardless, you have to know when it's just not there. Even if you see it and you want it really badly, you have to know when to just eat it. And it sucks to have to eat it, but that's not all heroes wear capes kind of moment where it's like, this is the correct thing to do, is to just take the sack or throw it away or whatever. But trying to force that in such a tough situation, which again, I understand what he sees. I get it. He's not wrong, but if you can't get it into the throw, then you're just throwing a really dangerous pass. And the worst thing that could happen happened, right? So the interception's terrible.
And that one play is his worst play, but that's one of those hey, that's a one play teachable moment, right? That's not something where big picture where I would be trying to get to him as a coach would be hey, you got again, I tweeted before the drive. I was you have 2 minutes, a timeout, play quarterback. Do not chuck and pray. And that's what they went into, was just chuck and pray moment. And again, it worked out. Funnily enough, the prayers worked with some pass interference and some penalty calls. But we also know with Russ at quarterback, this isn't I don't think we're coming away from this game being Jaxson Dart. Jaxson Dart was a big reason why we're in this game with no outside receivers. His playmaking, I think, is what held them together to keep them in this game and to be up 19-0 at one point. And then, the Theo Johnson touchdown, that's obviously lucky, but also it's not the Bo Nix one where Cordell Flott breaks up a pass and it lands in Troy Franklin's hands. That was a great throw to Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale Robinson just drops it. It just ends up happening to work out like a hook and ladder to Theo Johnson. So
it's
as much as that is lucky, it's not I don't count because that should have been a nice play down the field to Wan'Dale Robinson.
Yeah, it would have been a first down. So I mean, now let's get to that last drive there. I tweeted this out too, and I stand by it. It felt dirty. That whole last drive felt dirty. I had already seen the collapse as far as I was concerned, and if we had won this game, I was gonna probably go on a tirade about this whole last drive being fake. I do think that Wan'Dale got that first down, and in the moment, I thought he was a full yard short. After rewatching it, the line on the TV was completely off, and it does kind of look like where the ball lands is right at the line, but that's just super lucky. On top of that, you got a bogus roughing the passer call to advance the ball even further. The DPI, in my opinion, it was bogus too. The only legitimate penalty on that is the unsportsmanlike conduct on Sean Payton, which ends up being a 1 yard penalty anyway. But the only reason that penalty is legitimate is because he's arguing an actual bogus penalty. Yeah. And even you said,
the DPI wasn't bogus, that ball was underthrown.
Yeah, but before
he missed
that,
Jalen Hyde on that double move, underthrew in the middle of the field, which should have been. It's
the
again,
Bo Collins throw was inexcusable. That really should have been the end of the game right there. The Bo Collins throw. He threw it into double coverage right down the middle of the field. He was not seeing anything. He just saw his deepest guy and a moment to have the home run. And you're right, because they had so much time. They would have been better off. Even forget the fact that throw to Bo Collins was a bad decision. Let's just say he hits Jalen Hyatt on the double move where he actually has him and he overthrows him and they score a touchdown on that. You're still going right back to Shane Bowen and this soft ass defense which is what let you down anyway. They would have been better off just playing quarterback, just playing the 2 minutes with the one timeout. You had time. It sucks what you have to work with, but it's been what you've been working with all game. They could have done something better there, put themselves in a better position. Then maybe your prayer play is only like a 25 to 30 yard pass to the end zone and not like a 55 yarder. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But for 3 quarters, I'm like, dude, this Broncos defense is nothing to joke about, and these 2 outside receivers. So like again, like I said, big picture, I come away from this game being like, dude, like no wide receivers, no problem. Like he's able to make the most out of what's there. And there's all like I said, leading into it, coming out of this week and now being 2-5, it's like, all right, what are the things you're happy with and you can look forward to watching with the New York Giants? It's my offensive tackles who fucking bitched out Nick Bonito. Nick Bonito talking shit like it's kind of sad. Like everybody who's
getting one tackle, that's his whole stat sheet.
Anybody on the Broncos, even their janitor, should be able to talk more trash than Nick Bonito. But like big picture, it's like, all right, dude, you see the playmaking there stuff. 4th quarter stuff is like, all right, figure it out, calm your nerves. Like you can't just keep chucking and praying, but like you saw some really good stuff, some good playmaking stuff. But in reality, is what this game comes down to is defensively, what happened? No kicker. Like if the defense doesn't collapse the way it did. And part of that was the Dart interception, but still, you should be able to have one play like that
against a good defense. Absolutely.
And you have a kicker, then we're like, hey, yeah, clean up that interception. We're not talking about any of these 4th quarter chuck and pray shit, but at the end of the day, you got to evaluate it all. So
I'll add that Cam Skattebo is something to remain confident about. This is
I was going to put
like a small sample size. I don't know.
I'm like, so with Skattebo, it was like me and you both liked him and wanted to draft him, Grump. But I was like, there's red flags here, but it's like he just breaks tackles, and I like that, and I'm just kind of leaning into that. But you still have it in the back of your minds, like, what if he can't break the tackles like that in the NFL? And it's like, nope, that's not an issue. Like he had that run to the outside that was beautiful. The screen pass he set up, like as soon as he caught that screen pass, it's like he's got a touchdown if he plays this right, and he turned that into a touchdown. So it's like. It's the tackles, it's Jaxson Dart, it's Cam Skattebo, and the pass rush. Everything else is just like, even if it's good, it'll probably end up being bad in the long run. I thought Wandale played an excellent game. I know he had a drop that ended up turning into a touchdown. The Theo Johnson drops are starting to get extremely frustrating.
Agreed.
Where it's a trend now. Bellinger wide open on that touchdown was beautiful. That was another Dart play. That corner route to Bellinger, like that was a big boy throw where I thought he was going to hit the underneath, and it was maybe a tiny bit out of Bellinger's grasp, but he got hands on it. That could have been a nice touchdown pass.
That's his first drop of like in forever.
It was his first, not even drop. It was his first target that wasn't completed since 2022.
It's insane.
Or 2023, excuse me, not 2022.
Because
all last year he didn't have it. He had 100% catch rate, and then this year too. Let's talk about a positive, and then I want to talk about Brian Daboll, where you stand with all this a little bit. The offensive line was real deal. Like Andrew Thomas gave up one quarterback hit, and it was the first pass of the game on that like bootleg where he down blocked on Zach Allen, and Zach Allen kind of chased him. Jermaine Eluemunor gave up 0 pressures. These are unofficial numbers. They were awesome all game, right? This was the game where we're like, it's not going to be there. Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper had a sack. They did not win at all on the edge. Not at all. They bitched them out every single opportunity they got, right? If there's ever a question of like, we did our Jermaine Eluemunor, should you pay him on the mailbag this past week? And it was like, all right, this is a game, right? Like this is a game where this will make decisions on how invested we are in you. That was freaking awesome from Jermaine Eluemunor. And Andrew Thomas, against a guy who was supposed to be Defensive Player of the Year, was leading the league in sacks. No longer. Brian Burns is now leading them. Absolutely dominated him. And let's be honest, Nick Bonito did not want to play Andrew Thomas, right? I don't understand how he talks shit. He played more snaps on over the right tackle than he did the entire year combined. They were dropping him back into coverage 30% of the time. Like we were supposed to have one-on-one, mano a mano all game long. And my worry wasn't that he was going to win versus Andrew Thomas. My worry was, as an Andrew Thomas stand, is like Andrew Thomas was going to handle him, but he'd have like one sack in the fourth quarter or some shit, and then that's a defensive
the highlight play.
Lap. But like nothing at all. Like as much as this loss sucks, and we're going to get shit talked a lot about it, I am taking that one to the bank, and I'll do a breakdown on it tomorrow of Andrew Thomas versus Nick Bonito. But like that was embarrassing if you're Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper to talk this shit the way you guys did and do absolutely nothing. That was embarrassing. Really, all the pressures and sacks came from Dart holding onto the ball too long, trying to make a play. And then Doug Analytics tweeted they had 9 unblocked pressures, which is the second most by a team all season. Some of those are on purpose, and you throw the hot route. And then there were some where, like Cam Skattebo messed one up, where he's supposed to block the linebacker and he runs out into a route for some reason. So I thought the offensive line, in a game where I was like, all right, let's see how good it actually is, freaking stepped up. And run blocking wise, they did fairly well too. They opened up that Tyrone Tracy 31-yard touchdown run.
Oh yeah.
I know I'm rambling right now, but good. Like, forget Wan'Dale Robinson player of the game. Andrew Thomas and Jermaine Eluemunor, your dual player of the games.
It's really, yeah. So for 3 quarters, this game was an absolute shutout, and I think Broncos fans were mostly leaving the game before they all missed a historic comeback. And a lot of that has to do with the offensive line. I in my heart believed there was a chance the Giants could win. I didn't think it would be a runaway for 3 quarters. I thought that this would be like a shot for shot thing, or maybe it would be the Giants having to make a comeback or something along those lines. It's entirely the offensive line that allowed that to happen. There's just no way that with the way they play defense and with the talent they have on defense, that it was going to be able to be Jaxson Dart just playing schoolyard football, the way he did, the week prior. They're able to run the ball pretty well, and they were able to stay committed to it. So you have your 1-2 yard gains here and there, but then you had 7-8 yard chunk plays, an 18-yard chunk play here and there, enough stuff where you can stay committed to the run game, and it's going to work. It's going to break. Then you have what felt like was the nail in the coffin with the Tyrone Tracy run play up the middle, where they just hammered that run right through. That's not, yards after contact or anything. That's drive my truck through this hole. I thought that the offensive line played incredibly well. They had to completely alter they could not just pin their ears back and play anything. Nick Bonito barely touched the stat sheet with a tackle.
Yeah, he sucked. If would have thought that was Victor Dimukeji out there playing for the Denver Broncos. But again, he already deleted another tweet after the game.
Which is crazy. I mean, you just take this win and shut up at this point.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm going to go to bed thinking about this loss. You're going to go to bed knowing the truth. You sucked. Yeah. And Jonathan Cooper got a bullshit sack on a Jaxson Dart scramble where he should have thrown it away. Like, he didn't do anything either. Like, Jermaine Eluemunor shut his ass down. So, offensive line wise, hell of a game. And again, the run game, they were able to keep that fairly good too. Where Jaxson Dart wasn't able to scramble, they did a good job of not letting him do that. The running backs had 25 carries for 106 yards. We're not road grading or anything, but that's a lot better than where this offensive line was early in the season as a run blocking unit. So
exactly, and you have to factor in you're not playing your starting center, and your right guard is certainly not what you've built for the future. You know what I mean? That's like sort of a plug and fill, and we'll deal with that one when we have more space, when we have more draft picks. We're going to prioritize other positions right now. GVR is someone we can just sign and not really worry too much about it. And that's what you're working with right now. It's clear, whatever your internal monologue wants to tell you about the offensive line still kind of being a work in progress. It's very far along. Like they have put together an offensive line coach that has coached them up to play well. Andrew Thomas is playing at an all-pro level. Jermaine Eluemunor was an absolute steal of a sign. Again, doesn't matter. I guess it matters a little bit where you wanted to put him, but where they did put him is working. They're coaching him correctly. They've got a backup center and a 35-year-old right guard and an average left guard, and this is the game that they play against the number one defense in the NFL. It's hard to complain about that, what they've built.
So, as we close, we didn't really mention Brian Daboll at all. Offensively, they had a good plan with extreme limitations on the outside against a good defense. But at the end of the day, he's the head coach, and he owns this loss, and he owns being 2-5. And he owns, again, you can blame it fully on the GM, but at the end, if I'm a head coach and I'm like, dude, stop. We're not sorry. No more Jude McAtimney, not the kicker. No. Okay. I will protest this in the streets if you try and make me do this. So he owns it. I don't come away from this game as anything specifically like, what the hell, Brian Daboll? The only thing you can really do is say, well, they went run, pass at the end of the game when they were up. I think that's playing the results a little bit. Were you criticizing against the Eagles last week when they just started running the ball at the end of the game and then passed on 1 3rd down and they converted it and then just kept on running the ball again? Like, again, I do think that's playing the results. Overall, big picture, I don't have much faith in Brian Daboll as a head coach. Absolutely not. But Brian Daboll specifically in this game, I don't. This game doesn't sway much for me. If anything, it's like I kind of like the offense that he put together for Jaxson Dart, in this game. So, but I don't have any big picture takeaway from Brian Daboll is the story. Where I know people want to probably come on and start dog cussing him and like this guy's incompetent, and I certainly don't think he's a good head coach anymore. But this game wasn't moving the needle for me when we do our episode at the end of the season.
Yeah, unless there's something I'm not remembering, there's nothing specific to Brian Daboll in this game where I'm upset. I think that the offensive game plan was pretty good. Remembering, of course, that they are going into this game with a backup center and nothing on the outside and a rookie quarterback against the number one defense in the NFL, and they shut them out for 3 quarters. Did it all fall apart? Absolutely. Did the rookie quarterback have something to do with it? Absolutely. There were no time management things I can think of. There's just nothing I can pin on Brian Daboll. Now, if you want to pin Shane Bowen's hire on Brian Daboll, then okay,
yes, fine. Big picture stuff, that shit like that. Yes, absolutely. So
yeah, I mean, I know I think we opened with this perfectly. This is a full circle turnaround. Everybody wants to say it's the coaching, to blame this game somewhere. I think that the blame for this game can be pointed about 3 or 4 different directions. And the defensive coordinator is certainly a coach that I think you can point to, but I actually think the offense, the game plan, the coaching, the play calling, I think was all fine. I think it was all good when you factor in what roster they had before them for this game. So yeah. I didn't really have a specific issue with Brian Daboll in this. That being said, I have made my voice heard about the wacky things that Brian Daboll does as head coach. That
roster issues, over reliant on rookies,
taking Summer way too easily,
and Shane Bowen. Those are my just not a great roster, over reliant on rookies, and then Shane Bowen. Right. And none of the roster talks about, the Jude McAtimney situation and all that. I think the things where it's like you're trying to go and find something wrong with Daboll is will they say, oh, well, he should have just ran the ball instead of throwing it with Jaxson Dart on 3rd down. I don't know. I would like to go for the 1st down. And the other one would be, well, why'd they go for 2 when they could have kicked the extra point? Why are they chasing points? I really think that had to do with Brian Daboll mid-game, which is really stupid, but mid-game being like, I just don't trust this kicker to make extra points anymore. I might as well go for 2 here. And then when you score a touchdown and you are up by 2, then you kind of have to kick the extra point because going for 2 there is just reckless. So, but it's on Brian Daboll if you want to say for hiring Shane Bowen, which I agree with and keeping him around. So, and the culture of letting shit slide. I just opened up the chat and I saw that. So there's big picture stuff, but nothing individually with this game. All right. I mean, is there anything else? I mean, we talked kicker, defensive collapse, Jaxson Dart, first 3 quarters, and then 4th quarter.
Delayed games are becoming an issue. I know it gets kind of loud there, but it's not like it's something I haven't noticed before. What was there, 4 in this game? That's absurd. And also, was there a Statue of Liberty play in this game?
Yeah, the Statue of Liberty, which nobody quite runs it like the Boise State did back in the day to Ian Johnson right before he proposed to his girlfriend. But that's the second time we've seen it. One of my favorite moments of that Vikings, it's actually not one of my favorites, but like the Vikings playoff win, where it's like Statue of Liberty, everyone's like going crazy. I was like, we got 3 yards on this run. Like it looks cool, but we're putting it in our hype videos, but like it's a 3-yard run. And it ended up being a good run, though. This one was much better than the Vikings playoff Statue of Liberty. So this one actually worked. Dart acted like he was firing that ball in for the screen pass, too. Where I was like, oh, Statue of Liberty. Like before he even handed the ball off, I was like, oh, Statue of Liberty. Like, why is he throwing like crow hopping into a throw with no ball in his hand? So, all right, the Giants lost. This is what they do, right? They suck. They blow games against the Cowboys. They blow a game against the Saints. They blow this game. And then if they beat the Eagles next week, everyone's going to be like, man, maybe this team's not so bad if they just held on. And it's like, you know what? No, they're a bad team. They're a bad roster. They're a badly coached team. And this is the results that you get, right? Like there's only so many ways to skin a damn cat. But like this is the results you get. I don't want to hear shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? It's year 4. And if the excuse is, oh, well, they have a rookie QB, then why are they over-reliant on rookies? They're bad at what they do. There'll be some fun moments. If they totally turned it around, which if we're looking like coming on this and being like, maybe they're going to turn this thing around. Maybe after beating the Eagles and then the Broncos and maybe playing the Eagles. But they don't. They lose. They're 2-5. You are what your record says you are. They suck. We'll clean it up. We'll have an Andrew Thomas versus Nick Medino film breakdown out on the channel tomorrow. Jordan Renan, Breaking Big Blue tomorrow evening. Me and Grump will be back for a mailbag on Wednesday on patreon.com/Giants Nation. We'll have a full film review. We'll tell you the full story. We'll obviously focus on Jaxson Dart and the fourth quarter collapse in that. Appreciate you guys sticking with us. We got 1.7 thousand people watching right now in the middle of Sunday Night Football. Who's winning that?
I don't even have it open.
I'm going to check the box score. Let me
San
check the box
Francisco's
score.
up by 3 in the third quarter.
Let me check the box score and argue with people that watch the game. Michael Penix, 17-25, 182 yards, and 1 touchdown. That's pretty good, but I bet you they were all checkdowns and screen passes. All right, we'll see you guys when we see you. Until then, let's go Big Blue.